There are thousands of missing person cases that are still unsolved. Strange disappearances that cannot be explained by anyone years and even decades later. These cases present a riddle that puzzled law enforcement agents have not been able to solve despite scientific advances in forensics, DNA testing, and other techniques to make it much easier to find missing people who vanish without a trace. Number 5. Quinn Au has been a missing person since August 15, 2000, when he used a stolen debit card to withdraw $6,000 from an ATM in Port Adelaide, Australia. More than 15 years later, new images of Quinn were released by Australian police. Surveillance photos show him making the ATM transaction, just one of more than 10 that he made that day. It's clear that Quinn is no ordinary missing person, but despite clear images of his last recorded moments caught on camera, it seems that police have no useful leads. Quinn was born in Vietnam, but moved to Australia when he was 14. Little information about his life before his disappearance is available. What we do know is that he may have been involved in an organized crime ring involving a stolen debit card and the theft of more than $6.3 million over a period of just a few months. On May 19, 2000, a debit card was stolen from a Hong Kong student in Brisbane, Australia. Due to a computer processing error, the card was able to make an unlimited number of withdrawals from the National Australia Bank ATMs. Starting on July 28, 2000, Quinn was captured more than 41 times on ATM security cameras, conducting 465 illicit transactions. The last time the criminal was caught on camera was August 15th, at which point nearly $400,000 had already been stolen. 3 additional people were also caught on security video using the card to withdraw money. It wasn't until October 19th of that year that the card was finally flagged as stolen and retained. If the criminal reports in the story are true, there were nearly 7,000 criminal transactions between July and October of 2000. In November of 2000, police searched a number of properties in the area and found approximately $4 million in cash under the floorboards of a property. This was on Kitchener Street at Kilburn. 4 people were arrested, but Quinn was not among them. In fact, he was not reported missing until 18 months after he was last seen, on May 14, 2002, by the Major Fraud Section of the Australian Police. Police did not have much information as to who could be behind the mysterious disappearance of Quinn. However, an anonymous tip called into the Crime Stoppers hotline indicated that he had previously lived at the property on Kitchener Street, where the cash was found. A leading theory is that his life was taken by someone who was also in this crime ring, but evidence is scant, which could be what led police detectives to release the ATM surveillance photos in 2016. Despite these new photos, Quinn has not been found. It's unclear if he chose to vanish without a trace on his own, or if he was taken under suspicious circumstances. Anyone with more information about this unsolved case is urged to contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-333-000. Number 4. Paul Hibbard was a geologist with Colorado-based company Burge Exploration when he mysteriously vanished in 1976. He was engaged to be married, but other than that fact, his life remains an untold story. He was likely working with Burge on producing a series of resource maps that documented the location of valuable deposits of coal and uranium. As part of his work, Paul traveled in a specialized van equipped with expensive technology that could locate various mineral deposits such as coal, oil, and uranium. At the time he mysteriously disappeared, Paul was also carrying $30,000 worth of radioactive geologic material, a dollar value of more than $150,000 today. On May 28, 1976, when Paul was last seen by his employers and fiancée, he was set to engage in what was likely a routine trip to Gillette, Wyoming. However, he never returned, and his work van had vanished without a trace as well. When police began investigating into Paul's disappearance, They found a series of surprising coincidences that indicated something might have happened in Gillette. Just a week before he went missing, Paul had gotten a strange phone call from someone who said they worked for Burge, and they needed him to bring his van to a location near Gillette. Paul thought this was highly unusual, and he checked with his boss, who confirmed that this was a hoax. After Paul disappeared, his boss was vocal with the theory that seemed bizarre to outsiders. He thought Paul might have been kidnapped and forced to work for an illegal geological exploration company. He claimed that Paul's specialized knowledge, and especially the equipment in his van, would have been valuable to such a group. Although shocking, police were forced to give this theory some credence when, in July of 1976, at least $10,000 worth of Paul's equipment turned up in the hands of an Upton, Wyoming resident named Joseph Dowdy. Joseph was caught trying to sell the equipment, which had been carried in Paul's missing van, to his employer, a logging and drilling company. Police questioned Joseph in Paul's unsolved disappearance, but he did not provide them with any useful leads. He was arrested and charged with grand larceny for stolen equipment, but investigators were unable to connect him with anything further. A month later, while Joseph's larceny case was still pending, Paul's van was found abandoned outside of Upton on an anonymous tip. The van was parked in what's been described as a timbered area near a number of water pits. Inside was a gruesome clue that could point towards what had happened to Paul. The interior was soaked with large red stains covering the door, the floor mats, and the front seat. Unfortunately, DNA testing was not available in 1976. The FBI was able to identify the blood type, but since Paul's blood type is unknown, the case went unsolved. Investigators were starting to believe the formerly wild theory that Paul may have been targeted along with his van. No additional information on Paul's mysterious missing person case has been released since 1976. However, it is still considered open. Anyone with information can contact the Campbell County Sheriff's Department at 307-682-7271 or the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation at 307-777-7181. Number 3. In October of 1985, Susan Lynn Dawson was new to the tight-knit community of Neville, a small village with a population of 125 living in Western Canada's Saskatchewan province. She had recently moved from Winnipeg due to what some unverified reports claim was an insurance issue that left her homeless. What we do know is that Susan had found work and residence in the home of one Neville resident by the name of Terry Murphy. On November 12, 1985, Terry threw a small party for some local townspeople, as he apparently did regularly. And when Susan was in attendance, it was the last time anyone would see her before she became a missing person. 2 days later, on the morning of November 14, 1985, local police were dispatched to respond to an absolute horror story at Terry's house in Neville. The home itself was entirely demolished by an explosion in the basement. Investigators found Terry's remains at the scene, but there was absolutely no trace of the town's newest resident, Susan. Her car was also not located nearby. However, people remembered seeing an unusual blue rental car in Terry's front yard the day prior. Upon further investigation, though, police found the car, a blue 1985 Buick, parked behind Terry's property. It had been rented from a company in the nearby town of Swift Current and driven at least 185 miles before it was abandoned. There were shells scattered across the floor and more bullets on the front seat. There was a high-caliber bullet hole in the trunk. Investigators had no idea if the hole and the mileage on the car could be related to Susan's case. Adding to the mysterious circumstances of Susan's disappearance was the fact that Terry was far from innocent himself. Terry, an avid hunter, was the suspect in a criminal investigation by Saskatchewan conservation officers regarding a number of wildlife infractions. He had recently been charged with more than 15 weapons-related offenses and was due in provincial court that December. Terry's friends reported that he was very upset about this and had spoken frequently about rigging up a vehicle with dynamite as a way to retaliate. The Canadian police performed a thorough foot search for Susan, but turned up no clues. Susan's car was later found parked at Neville's store, but there were no traces left to explain how she had vanished. Today, nearly 40 years later, Susan's case remains an unsolved mystery. Police have no leads but consider it an open criminal investigation. Anyone with information can contact the RCMP Historical Case Unit at 1-833-502-686 or 639-625-4111. Number 2. Before he vanished in 2018, 26-year-old Terence Woods was a TV professional with more than 5 years of production experience under his belt, despite his young age. His work took him all over the world, and he was dedicated to it. In 2018, Terence landed a job as a production assistant on the Discovery series Gold Rush, which was filming an offshoot season at an abandoned mine in the rugged Idaho countryside. Terence was a member of a small 12-person crew filming in the rural foothills. If the behind-the-scenes stories are true, then Terence had trouble fitting in with the culture of the production company and may have been feeling isolated or overwhelmed. On October 5, 2018, he texted his father about leaving several weeks early for reasons unknown. That same day, after a grueling recording on rough terrain, Terence would make a sudden and haunting choice that would result in his mysterious disappearance. With no warning to his coworkers, he dropped his equipment in the dirt and ran down the side of a steep cliff into a thickly wooded forest. Two of his colleagues attempted to follow, but Terence had run quickly down a cliff into a treacherous, rocky area, and they were unable to find him. Terence's coworkers called 911 at 6:41 p.m., where they reported that he had been having a really hard time emotionally and had a mental breakdown earlier that day. However, neither his coworkers or his parents had any idea as to what might have prompted the normally professional and hardworking Terence to completely abandon the site and run off into dangerous, unknown territory. Additionally complicating the situation was that the slight young man had somehow managed to run down the cliff without tripping or hurting himself, leaving behind no traces of footprints or clothing, which police could use to further track him. Local police conducted a comprehensive search of the area for more than 7 days, including with dogs and helicopter crews. However, because the call came in during that evening, they did not begin their search until the following morning. Dogs were able to track Terence's scent to a road at the base of the cliff, but the trail went cold. No one had any idea where he may have gone. To this day, investigators are stumped and have been unable to turn up any leads. Terence's family actively maintains social media pages for his case, including on Instagram and Twitter, as well as a GoFundMe to support the investigation. Anyone with information regarding Terence's strange disappearance should contact the Idaho County Sheriff's Office at 208-983-1100. Number 1. 19-year-old Bryce Lasposa vanished without a trace on his way home to see his family on October 30th, 2013. He remains a missing person ever since, and despite the fact that he even spoke with police on the night that he disappeared, investigators have not uncovered any leads. Bryce grew up in the Naperville, Illinois area and was known as a social kid with a particular interest in art. In 2012, Bryce moved with his parents to Orange County, California, and that fall he enrolled at Sierra College, about a 7 hours drive north. By all accounts, Bryce had a great freshman year at Sierra. He made friends with his roommate and started dating another student. And in mid-August of 2013, he was eager to return to campus. However, this is when the case gets strange. Bryce was showing signs of addiction, and some missing person reports say that he had stayed awake for 2 to 3 days. On August 28th, Bryce was acting so strange that his roommate called his mother to tell her the true story about her son. At 11:30 that same night, Bryce called his mother himself. His ex-girlfriend, not wanting him to drive, had taken the keys. His mom told him to go home and encouraged his ex to give him back his keys. He called his mother again at 1 a.m. when he was about an hour south of campus. Around 11 a.m. the next day, Bryce's parents were notified that he had used their emergency roadside assistance outside of town in Buttonwillow, California. A man named Christian had delivered gas to Bryce at the side of the road around 9 a.m. Christian offered to go back to the area to check if the missing person could still be found. Bryce had remained in the same spot for hours, and when Christian told him that his parents were so worried they were about to report a missing persons case, Bryce agreed to drive the additional 3 hours home around noon. At 6 p.m., with no updates from Bryce, his parents decided to file the missing person report after all. Police were able to track his cell phone to an area just a few miles south of where Christian had spoken to him 6 hours earlier. Officers found Bryce to be friendly and lucid. However, he didn't want to call his parents, and the officers eventually called for him. His mother asked him what he was doing, and he told her that he was blowing off steam. When he still didn't return home, his parents asked Christian to again speak to Bryce, who was still in the same place around 8 p.m. Christian followed Bryce's car to confirm that he had gotten on the highway heading south. Finally, at 2 a.m., Bryce called his mother and told her he was going to pull into a rest stop to sleep. He had been awake for over 24 hours. 6 hours later, the doorbell rang at Bryce's parents' house, but instead of their missing son, they found a highway patrol officer. Bryce's car had been found abandoned and overturned near a lake at around 4 a.m., just an hour south of Buttonwillow and still 2 hours from his home. Personal belongings such as his phone, laptop, and wallet were found inside the car, but he was missing. Police immediately began searching for Bryce. Per security footage, it seemed like sometime before dawn, the missing person was caught on camera driving off the main road and accelerating toward the lake. When his car was found, it appeared that the back window had been pushed through from the inside. Investigators had theorized that Bryce did this to exit his car after the wreck. However, his next destination remains unknown. Police dogs were able to track his scent to a nearby truck stop, but the trail went cold. Perhaps most baffling about this unsolved case is the numerous interactions Bryce had during his journey, with his parents on the phone, with Christian, and even with police investigators. Despite all of these touch points, Bryce still went missing. His strange and mysterious case remains open to this day. Anyone with information on Bryce can contact the LA County Sheriff's Department at 818-984-0630. His parents also run a Facebook page called Find Bryce Lasposa, where they share information and gather resources. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.